Multiple sclerosis is a disease many of us have heard about, but likely we don't know a lot about it, although there's a good chance you know someone with MS. So joining me today to talk to you about this is Johanna Green. She's the Northern Regional Director for the Alberta and Northwest Territories Division with the MS Society of Canada. You can check out their website at mssociety.ca. Good to have you with us, Johanna. Can you first off the top here just explain what exactly is multiple sclerosis?
Sure, Paul. Thanks so much for having me. MS is essentially a chronic autoimmune disease of the central nervous system, which is comprised of the brain, the spinal cord, and the optic nerves. So essentially, in multiple sclerosis, the body attacks itself. It targets the myelin in MS, which is the protective covering over our nerves. And so as that covering is depleted, it can eventually lead to even nerve damage. And so the places where that damage happens and the type of damage can impact the type of MS that a person has and the disease course that they'll eventually encounter.
Okay. And what would the typical MS symptoms be? I mean, how much variance is there in the severity of symptoms from person to person?
A tremendous amount of variance in symptoms from person to person and also from time to time within the same person. Some of the most common MS symptoms include extreme fatigue, numbness, tingling in the limbs, muscle weakness. It can also lead to impairment of vision, bladder and bowel issues, even cognitive impairment for some people. So a whole host of different symptoms. And as I said, very unpredictable in terms of how they present for each person and from time to time within that same person.
Okay. Can you share with us what it's like to live with that MS and these symptoms that you've described? And so there's got to be some challenges that come along with that. And again, it's going to be varying, because, just as you described there. And the COVID-19 pandemic, of course, must put some added stress on anyone with MS.
Absolutely. One of the hallmarks of living with MS is that uncertainty, that unpredictability that it brings. For people living with MS, some of the more common issues that they encounter are employment because of the episodic nature of MS, which can mean that at times a person feels reasonably well and healthy, but at other times they have what we call relapses, during which their symptoms will flare up. So that can lead to real challenges within the workforce. An unfortunate statistic is that 60% of people living with multiple sclerosis are eventually unemployed, which, as you might imagine, can lead to very real income security issues, as well as access to equitable treatments and care and housing. So lots of different complexities. COVID-19 adds just another layer of complexity to this already complex and unpredictable disease. Obviously, people experiencing a lot of anxiety and wondering, what could this mean for me as I already live with this very difficult disease. So at the MS Society, we've pivoted quickly to ensure that while we can't deliver in-person programs and services for the safety of all, we offer a wealth of online resources, from webinars on mental health, physical health, featuring various experts, as well as peer support and different things online where people can connect with experts and other people living with the disease.
Mm-hmm. I mean, we need to find a cure for this. In fact, this Sunday, May 24th, MS communities across Canada are going to be rallying at a nationwide virtual MS walk. So can you tell us how that's going to work and how our viewers could get involved in this as well?
Absolutely. So normally around this time of year, during MS Awareness Month in May, we would be coming together in communities across the country for our annual Jamin Built MS Walks. Obviously, in today's reality, we can't do that in person, but it was really important for us to be able to provide a space to still bring the MS community together. So this Sunday, we're very excited to be hosting our first ever virtual MS Walk, which is going to be comprised of really encouraging people to engage online in the social space. We have a couple of really neat activities planned as part of the day. At 10 a.m., we'll have a bit of an opening ceremonies. We're live streaming on Facebook that day. you can connect with our MS Society President and CEO, Pamela Valentine, who's going to be welcoming participants along with other members of the MS community who live with MS from across the country. So it'll be a real unification of Team Canada as we come together to create a future free of MS. Throughout the day, encouraging people to do whatever they want as a show of support in the fight against MS, be it taking a safe walk around their neighborhood, having a dance party in their house, or doing anything else, and trying to turn it, if possible, into a bit of a fundraiser for the MS Society. So encouraging people to share photos, videos, and connect online using the hashtag #WeChallengeMS. Later that afternoon, we're also going to be featuring a country music concert at 2 o'clock, streaming on YouTube, featuring some amazing country artists, all in support of the fight against MS.
Okay, that sounds like fun. And yes, people can donate online because this is a big part of this as well. Of course, it takes funds for the research and so forth. So they can just go to your website then to donate, or?
Absolutely. And there's a special section of our website, wechallengems.ca, where you can find all sorts of details about how you can get involved, how you can donate, and to learn about the great activities, very creative ones that people are doing in support.
Okay. How prevalent is MS? Now, I understand that Canada, for whatever reason, has one of the highest rates of MS. And in particular, I've heard that here in southern Alberta, rates are quite high.
Canada does have the dubious distinction of having one of the highest rates of MS in the entire world. Approximately 77,000 Canadians live with the disease, and on average, 11 people are diagnosed each and every day. Here in Alberta, we also have among the highest rates of MS in the entire country. Lots of question marks around why that is, and certainly poses lots of questions and suspicions around environmental factors. Certainly in Alberta, we do see pockets of increased prevalence, and that's something that our amazing team of researchers are continuing to look closely into.
Yeah, I mean, because of the geographical correlations, right? Is there an environmental cause of MS? So it sounds like we don't have any solid evidence on that. But do we know anything about the cause of MS? Do we know what some of the possibilities could be?
So scientists continue to investigate. However, over decades of research, lots of important discoveries have been made in that area. Currently, the most common hypothesis around the cause of MS is that it's a combination of factors, including environmental factors, genetic predisposition, as well as some lifestyle factors that also influence a person's susceptibility to the disease. Things like smoking and obesity that we have learned can correlate to a person's potential for developing MS. And so in a way, empowering to know that there are things people can do to hopefully, help ward against the disease. And the idea of possibly preventing MS in the future is something that actually is part of our conversation now, which in and of itself is really exciting.
Okay, yeah, prevention definitely. Yeah, something we need to focus on here if at all possible. What would the average age of onset be? And what's the earliest onset you've ever seen?
So people are typically diagnosed between the ages of 20 and 49. So those are the prime career, education, and family building years. So of course, a huge impact when to be diagnosed with a chronic illness at that point in life. We have seen children as young as 2 diagnosed, and people older than 49 are also diagnosed. But most, as I said, diagnosed really during the prime of their lives between 20 and 49 years.
Okay. I understand that women are much more likely to develop MS as compared to men. Do we have any, do we know why that would be?
That is among the far too many questions that we have rather than answers in the world of MS. Women are 3 times more likely than men to develop MS. And so, with that come a host of different kinds of questions and important topics, certainly around pregnancy MS and those kinds of pieces. And there's lots of information on our website. There's a specific section on MS and women's issues in MS, which is, of course, super relevant given those prevalency rates.
Hmm. Now, what kinds of treatment are available for MS? What's working?
So there's been a tremendous resurgence of options for people living with MS. Currently, there are 15 different what we call disease modifying therapies for people living with MS, specifically with the relapsing remitting form of MS, where symptoms will come and go over time. And just in the last couple of years, we've also had the first ever treatment emerge for the progressive form of MS, which has been a huge breakthrough. Lots more work needs to be done in that area, but obviously now there is choice for people living with MS. We've moved from solely having injectable therapies, which, as you might imagine, having to take a needle every day isn't great for quality of life. So there are now oral options for taking some of those therapies. And so we're seeing people live much better with MS as a result of the emergence of some of those therapies. They, of course, aren't a cure, and many come with their own not so nice side effects, but certainly something to help improve quality of life as we continue to search out that cause and cure.
So again, these are helpful, but at this point, there's no cure that we know of, right? Are there any promising experimental treatments in development at this point?
Hugely exciting developments on this front. As I said, although we have that dubious distinction of having among the highest rates of MS in the entire world here in Canada, we're also home to some of the world's leading MS experts. So we are right in the backyard of some of the world's best researchers. Some of the areas of investigation right now that we're really excited about are areas such as myelin repair. So I talked about how MS sort of eats away at the myelin, the covering of the nerves. The current treatments really deal with addressing the inflammation that's caused by that, but they don't get to the bottom of actually repairing the myelin that's been damaged. So research underway right now is actually working on promoting repair of that myelin to actually possibly even reverse some of the symptoms of MS. I mentioned that recently there's been a new treatment for the progressive form of MS, which typically is the form that results in the most disability for people with the disease. So a lot more effort being invested into research into that area to hopefully be able to develop some new treatments sooner than later. Lots of work in the area of stem cells, and specifically there's a clinical trial underway right now around mesenchymal stem cells. So they're stem cells that come from the person's own body and are promising in that, unlike bone marrow transplantation therapy that involves intensive chemotherapy that's very risky, mesenchymal stem cell therapy has much less risk. So certainly something promising on the horizon. Also, areas of investigation that are of interest is what role the gut microbiome in our bodies might play in influencing MS. So investigation happening on so many fronts, and a really exciting time and a time of promise in MS research.
Yeah, no, that's very interesting. Thanks for sharing that with us. Now, when it comes to day-to-day life again, what kinds of activities are helpful for somebody with MS, like exercise, that sort of thing? Is that helpful, or is it just kind of basic? Yes, it's good to stay healthy overall for anybody.
Absolutely. Living a healthy, balanced lifestyle is among the most important things a person can do to be able to self-manage as much as that is possible their disease. Interestingly, years ago when someone was diagnosed with MS, they were told not to exercise. They were told that that was bad, it would exacerbate symptoms. Now things have changed almost 180 degrees. There's lots of evidence that proves that exercise in moderation and an appropriate level to your disease is actually very important in managing your disease. So we strongly encourage that. Actually, there are Canadian physical activity guidelines for people living with MS that you can find on our website.
Okay, great. And diet, of course, you want to eat healthy. Is there anything other than generally eating healthy? Is there anything really specific that scientists have discovered? This, eat this and it will help your MS stay stable or improve?
There are lots of different theories, and I would almost say fad diets out there that people have put out and have claimed, that have worked for them. In truth, most MS health experts really just, as boring as it sounds, advise sort of that high fiber, low fat diet and abiding by the Canada Food Guide.
Right. And likewise, holistic, kinds of treatments, naturopaths, whatever, homeopaths, that sort of thing. I mean, Yeah, I don't know. I mean, is there anything? I know there's probably lots of stuff on the internet. Some of it probably way out there, and other stuff maybe it actually does help. Is there any science that we know of that way? Is there anything natural that we know of that can help, or is it just basically still in progress being studied?
There are lots of other sort of lifestyle related choices people can make that can absolutely support managing their MS. Lots of people with MS benefit from physiotherapy, rehabilitation therapy, even massage. Stress management is another big piece in managing MS.
Hmm. Yeah, so I mean, you can get depressed with this, that sort of thing. Like, I mean, yeah, just thinking that through, yeah, that would be hard on a person. So important then again to get some emotional support as well, right?
Absolutely. At the MS Society, making those connections, especially those peer to peer connections between people living with MS and other people who are living with it, who really understand it better than anyone else. So, we actually have a peer support program, which is available to people. We connect a person living with MS who might be even newly diagnosed with someone else living with MS who's been trained, and they can connect online or by the phone as often as they would like to be able to get that support.
That's actually super. That sounds, yeah, bang on. Well, thank you so much for sharing all this with us here today. That was fascinating, actually. It's quite, quite informative. So, Johanna, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Paul, thank you so much for having me. Appreciate it.